Hey Stampers, another video tutorial coming at you. I've got the second video in the drapery or the curtain fold series. This will be the second of 3. So the first video was on the half drape or the half curtain, and this one is going to be on the full curtain. So what we've got here is a piece of DSP that is 3 by 11. 3 by 11. And again, we're using the DSP. It's easier to fold. It's patterned on both sides, so it gives you the drapery or the curtain feel. And this is the Affectionately Yours DSP pack. And all of the coordinating colors is what we did the cards in. So I'll show you the samples once we're done doing the fold so you can see how I put it together. All of them are very similar in nature for the Stamp Club. I just did a bunch of bases up in the various colors so that we could use all the DSP and teach the lady the 3 different ways to fold the half curtain, full curtain, and the double. So this is the full. So 3 by 11 is our piece of paper. We've got lots of scoring coming at you again, so you can pause and rewind the video. You can jot it down as we go, as you watch it the first time, and then you'll be able to do it yourself the second time, whatever works for you. We're going to start at one edge and move to the second one. So we're going to start at our left and move to the right. I'm getting the cutting blade out of the way completely because we're scoring and I don't want to cut my paper by accident, which is something that I would notoriously do. So we're going to start at 1.5. 1.5 inches we're going to score. We're going to do 2, 3, 3.5, 4.5, 5, 6, 6.5, which is that little mark and the little indentation there on the cutter. We're going to go to 7.5, 8, 9, and 9.5. So you'll notice that it went half an inch, inch, half an inch, inch. So 1.5 to 2, and then to 3, 3.5 to 4.5, 5 to 6, 6.5 to 7.5, 8 to 9, 9.5. So you're doing every half inch, every inch. And what'll happen is you'll have a larger, you've got narrow and large and narrow score pieces in there, if you can see those. And right in the middle, you're gonna have one of the larger score sections. So if you fold those score lines both ways, they're gonna be a little easier to see. And that's right in the middle of your cardstock or your DSP. Okay, so fold those so they're easier to see. There might be one side of your paper that's a little easier to see than the other. So use whichever side that is. It's not going to matter once you cut it. We've got a 3-inch piece of paper. I just had to grab a pencil, sorry. We had a 3-inch piece of paper, so what we want to do is we want to mark this at 1.5 on both ends. And the trimmer that Stampin' Up has is great because there's numbers everywhere. So you can line this up here, do the 1.5, and just pull it right down to the bottom, do the 1.5 again. So it's easy peasy to try to mark. So we're going to do a little bit of cutting now. We want an angled edge. So we've got our 1.5 mark here, and then we've got our two folds that we scored. So what's going to happen is for this mark up here, you're going to cut to this score line here. But when you come down to do this cut from this side, you're not going to go to the same score line because that's going to give you a point. You're going to come to this other one. Okay, so we're going to cut this angle and this angle. We're going to leave this piece flat. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to go into the groove of my trimmer, and I'm going to mark up my 1.5 point, and then there are my 2 score lines, one right here and one right here. Okay, so I'm going to go to the closest one to my pencil mark, the closest score line to my pencil mark. So I've got my pencil mark marked up in the groove, and then I'm going to come to the edge of this score line, and I'm going to make sure that the edge of that score line is right in the groove. Okay, so we're going to cut. This piece is going to come off, and you want to keep this flat edge. So you've got your angle. We're going to keep this flat edge, and now we're going to angle this one. So what you're going to do with this guy, my pencil mark down here, I'm going to line up in the groove, And then I'm not gonna go to this pencil mark because that's gonna give me my point. I'm gonna come to the one that's closest to my pencil mark. This is my second score line that I folded, okay? And it's closest to this pencil mark. So I'm gonna take that corner, I'm gonna follow it along to this corner, and I'm gonna line that up in the groove of the cutter, and then cut this off. So see what you end up with? You have that flat piece in the end. So the pencil mark to the closest score line. Pencil mark to the closest score line. Okay? So that's what you end up with. And with the other with the other piece that we cut from the other video, there was only one angle. So you can tell what we're going for here. This is going to be the middle of our curtain fold. Okay? I'm going to want the green side facing up. No, maybe I'll do the watermelon side. I'll do the watermelon side. So when you start folding, whatever pattern you want up, that you want showing the most, keep that face up. Okay? And the same rule applies from the last video as this one. You have a straight line and you have an angled line. The angled line is going to give you your drapery look or your curtain look. This line should always stay straight. So here are our two folds that we started with. I'm going to start with this one on the right hand side. I'm going to fold this over. Okay? And then I'm going to fold it back. And when I'm doing these folds, your top line, your straight line, always stays straight. Okay, so you can see the little bit of the curtain fold starting here. But every time I fold this, I'm going to make sure that it all lines up. I don't want this coming down or up. I want it to stay straight. And you can see that drapery. There we go. We've got the green peeking out. The cucumber crush peeking out from the other side. And see, this is pretty much what we were doing for our half drape. And now we have this piece in the middle. We're going to do the same thing on this side that we did on this side. So we're going to pull this over, make sure it's straight, and we're going to go back and make sure it's straight. And do you see what's happening here? That's going to be our middle piece. And we're going to have a drapery happening on each side. Make sure they stay straight. We want that top line, that straight line, to stay straight at all times. See? There we go. There's our full curtain or our full drape. So it happens on either side. And very similar to the last video that we had, I used some Tombow here. And I used it inside to keep those curtains closed. Just to keep the drape closed and a little bit more rigid for when I put it on the front of the card. You don't need much. And don't put it right in the crease. You want to come out a little bit so that it'll hold the paper down. Just a little tiny bit. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. These were my card fronts that I used, and these were just the basic, the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and the 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just, actually, I don't want to snail that together. So before I put these together, I'm going to put this onto my cucumber crush piece, and I am going to use some sticky strip. Because like I said, it goes on for days and I can't get to my tear and tape, so I like to use this up when I can. I'm just going to put 2 pieces on there to hold that down. So we've got our Tombow in the creases in the front, and along the back I put on some sticky strip. I have my 4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock, so one of my layering pieces. And I did not adhere it to my card base yet, and there's a reason why. Okay. So if I were to layer this first and then put this on, it's going to hang off the edges and I'm going to have to wrap it around. So if I'm doing a vertical card, so if that's the case, I'm going to keep this off, put this on first, and then wrap it around. Okay? However, hold on just a second. If you're doing a horizontal card, then you can center that if you wanted to. okay? And then put a strip across and then a greeting. It's completely up to you. So it depends on what orientation you're doing. I like this better in the vertical, but you can do it in a horizontal as well. So if I do this in the vertical, it's gonna hang off the edge a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna adhere that to the front. I'm just gonna fold this over. My sticky strip is right to the edge, so that's gonna keep it on. And now I'm gonna put snail right over those flaps. And now I'm gonna put that puppy right on the card base. There, and then you can decorate accordingly. And just like in the last video, use some glimmer paper across. I'll show you my samples. That's the full drape. Now you can see what I did with it. And these are the 2 card samples that I did. So this one is identical to that one. And I just used the banner punch on these guys. I did some Night of Navy that matched with this particular piece of the DSP. In this one, I didn't use the cardstock matching. I used the DSP. So it's the dotted paper. It's the dotted watermelon piece. And I just put that behind just to match that up. Some glimmer paper across just to kind of finish off that seam across the top. And then you've got your full drape or your full curtain fold for the front of your card. How cool is that? I love this piece of paper from this DSP pack, actually. Really like that one. I like the navy. So that is the full drape. Video 2 of 3 of the curtain or drapery series. The next one is going to be the double, so stay tuned on the YouTube channel for that one. Hope you had fun. Happy stamping!